The commencement of 2026 has ushered in a period of profound institutional scrutiny within the hallowed halls of the Hart Senate Office Building. As the Senate Armed Services Committee convened to evaluate General Donovan's credentials for a pivotal military leadership role, the atmosphere was charged with the weight of global instability. Senator Tom Cotton, a figure known for his rigorous adherence to constitutionalist principles, steered the discourse toward the foundational bedrock of military service. The line of questioning did not merely seek platitudes regarding service or duty, but delved into the complex legal architecture of the chain of command. Central to this inquiry was the definition and historical occurrence of the unlawful order within the American military apparatus. This conceptual framework serves as the primary safeguard against the politicization of the armed forces in a democratic society. Senator Cotton's strategic focus on this issue allowed for a public recalibration of what is expected from those who wear the uniform. By soliciting testimony from seasoned military officers, the hearing established a clear record of institutional integrity that transcends partisan administrations. The generals provided consistent accounts of their decades of service, noting an absence of directives that would violate the law of armed conflict or the Constitution. This collective testimony functioned as a powerful rebuttal to contemporary anxieties regarding the potential for executive overreach or internal systemic decay. The dialogue underscored a sophisticated educational infrastructure designed to instill legal and ethical standards from the earliest stages of a soldier's training. This emphasizes that the American military remains an entity governed by rules rather than the whims of individual leaders. Senator Cotton utilized these affirmations to highlight that the efficacy of the United States military is inextricably linked to its moral clarity. Such an approach ensures that the exercise of lethal force remains within the strict confines of international and domestic legal parameters. The hearing thus reaffirmed that the strength of the nation's defense lies in its unwavering commitment to the principles of lawful governance. As the focus shifted from the abstract to the operational, the committee addressed the pressing reality of global force posture. The geographical focus tightened on the Southern Command, an area of responsibility often overshadowed by the high-intensity theaters of Europe and the Indo-Pacific. General Donovan was confronted with the harsh logistical calculus required to secure the Western Hemisphere against a backdrop of increasing foreign encroachment. The discussion moved into the intricate realm of resource allocation, where the demand for high-end assets consistently outstrips the available supply. This segment of the hearing laid bare the zero-sum game inherent in modern national security strategy. The strategic dilemma faced by the Pentagon is most acutely illustrated by the distribution of carrier strike groups. These massive platforms represent more than just naval power. They are the ultimate symbols of American resolve and diplomatic leverage. General Donovan acknowledged that the deployment of such assets to one theater inevitably leaves a vacuum of influence in another. In the context of the Southern Command, this scarcity is compounded by the persistent efforts of foreign adversaries to establish regional footholds. Balancing these competing interests requires a nuanced understanding of how military presence correlates with regional stability and national interest. The complexities of logistical management on a global scale cannot be overstated when considering the current geopolitical climate. General Donovan highlighted that the ability to project power effectively is limited by the physical constraints of maintenance cycles and personnel readiness. When resources are diverted to address immediate crises in the Middle East or Eastern Europe, the strategic depth of the Americas is often neglected. This creates a vulnerability that strategic competitors are more than willing to exploit through economic and irregular warfare tactics. The hearing illuminated the urgent need for a more sustainable approach to global force management that does not compromise long-term readiness. Institutional discipline and national security logistics emerged as two parallel priorities that must be synchronized for effective leadership. One ensures the internal health of the organization, while the other provides the external tools necessary for mission success. Senator Cotton's inquiry established that without the former, the latter loses its legitimacy and moral authority on the world stage. Conversely, a military with perfect integrity but inadequate resources remains incapable of deterring multifaceted threats to the homeland. The synthesis of these two elements forms the core of the challenge facing General Donovan and the broader defense establishment. The hearing also served as a critical platform for discussing the evolving nature of foreign influence within the Western Hemisphere. It is no longer sufficient to view security through the lens of traditional territorial defense alone. General Donovan pointed to the integration of economic investment and military cooperation by adversarial nations as a primary concern. This holistic approach to competition requires the United States to rethink its own engagement strategies with regional partners. The scarcity of traditional military assets like carrier strike groups makes the development of alternative forms of cooperation even more vital. Effective resource management involves a constant reassessment of where American influence is most needed to prevent a shift in the global balance of power. The testimony provided a sobering look at how thin the margins of security have become in an era of renewed great power competition. Every decision to move a naval asset or an infantry brigade carries with it a set of strategic trade-offs that reverberate across the globe. General Donovan's responses indicated a preference for a more agile and integrated force that can respond to crises without depletive effects on secondary theaters. This vision for the future of the military requires significant shifts in both funding and strategic philosophy. The role of the Senate Armed Services Committee in this process is to act as a bridge between the military's operational needs and the public's expectations. By demanding transparency on both the ethical and practical fronts, the committee reinforces the democratic oversight of the nation's most powerful institution. The exchange between Senator Cotton and General Donovan was a testament to the health of this oversight mechanism. It provided a clear signal to both domestic and international audiences that the United States remains committed to its role as a stable and principled global leader. The proceedings left no doubt that the path forward involves a rigorous strengthening of both character and capability. The transition from discussing the moral imperatives of leadership to the brutal reality of theater logistics requires a comprehensive understanding of the current global threat matrix. General Donovan emphasized that the Southern Command is no longer a peripheral concern but a central pillar of the nation's integrated deterrent strategy. The historical perception of Latin America as a zone of relative stability has been challenged by the sophisticated entry of transcontinental actors. These entities do not always utilize conventional military force to achieve their objectives, but instead employ a complex tapestry of economic leverage and gray zone operations. This shift necessitates a fundamental recalibration of how the United States maintains its influence and protects its strategic interests. The scarcity of carrier strike groups mentioned during the hearing serves as a poignant metaphor for the broader challenges of naval overstretch. These strike groups are the primary instrument of American power projection, yet their availability is governed by the rigid laws of physics and maintenance requirements. When a carrier is deployed to the Mediterranean to deter aggression in Eastern Europe, it creates a quantifiable vacuum in the Caribbean and South Atlantic. This gap in presence is not merely a tactical issue but a strategic vulnerability that adversaries are quick to capitalize on through increased maritime activity. General Donovan's testimony underscored the need for a more versatile naval footprint that can provide persistent engagement without exhausting high-end platforms. The discussion regarding the Southern Command also highlighted the increasing importance of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets in the Western Hemisphere. Without the constant presence of a carrier air wing, the military must rely on land-based sensors and unmanned aerial systems to maintain situational awareness. The struggle to secure funding for these less visible but equally critical assets remains a point of contention within the defense budget. Senator Cotton's inquiry helped to illuminate how these resource gaps directly affect the military's ability to interdict illicit trafficking and monitor adversarial movements. The hearing provided a clear mandate for a more balanced distribution of technical resources across all geographical combatant commands. Adversarial influence in the region often takes the form of dual-use infrastructure projects that can be quickly converted to support military operations. Deep-water ports and space tracking stations managed by foreign state-owned enterprises represent a long-term challenge to the freedom of navigation and regional sovereignty. General Donovan articulated that the American response must be multifaceted, involving not just the Department of Defense but also diplomatic and economic agencies. The integration of these various levers of national power is the only way to effectively counter the holistic strategies employed by global competitors. This realization marks a departure from traditional military thinking and moves toward a more comprehensive national security framework. The debate over global force posture is inextricably linked to the readiness of the individual service member and the health of the industrial base. General Donovan noted that the constant demand for deployments has placed a significant strain on personnel and equipment alike. To maintain the high standards of integrity and discipline discussed earlier, the military must ensure that its forces are not pushed beyond their breaking point. A sustainable pace of operations is essential for preserving the long-term viability of the volunteer force and its institutional memory. The hearing served as a reminder that strategic success is built upon the well-being and professional development of the men and women in uniform. The concept of the unlawful order was revisited in the context of emerging technologies and autonomous systems in the modern battle space. As artificial intelligence becomes more integrated into decision-making processes, the clarity of the chain of command faces new and unprecedented challenges. General Donovan reaffirmed that no matter how advanced the technology becomes, the responsibility for legal and ethical conduct remains with the human commander. The training programs highlighted by Senator Cotton are being updated to ensure that leaders at all levels can navigate the complexities of digital warfare. This commitment to human accountability is what distinguishes the American military model from those of its authoritarian counterparts. The geopolitical landscape of 2026 demands a military that is both technologically superior and morally grounded to withstand systemic pressures. The synergy between these two attributes allows the United States to build lasting partnerships based on trust and shared values. General Donovan's vision for the Southern Command includes a heavy emphasis on security cooperation and capacity building with regional allies. By empowering local partners to secure their own borders and maritime approaches, the United States can achieve its strategic objectives more efficiently. This collaborative approach serves as a force multiplier that offsets the limitations of physical resource allocation. The economic dimensions of national security were also a key theme during this segment of the Senate hearing. The vulnerability of supply chains and the importance of securing critical minerals located within the Southern Command's area of responsibility were discussed in detail. General Donovan pointed out that the military has a vital role in ensuring that these essential resources remain accessible and are not monopolized by hostile powers. This intersection of commerce and defense requires a high degree of coordination between the private sector and the military establishment. The hearing emphasized that economic resilience is a prerequisite for maintaining a dominant global military posture over the long term. The psychological impact of American military presence or absence in a region cannot be measured by ship counts alone. It is about the perception of commitment and the reliability of the United States as a security partner in times of crisis. General Donovan acknowledged that the periodic appearance of a carrier strike group sends a powerful message of reassurance to allies and a stern warning to detractors. However, he also stressed that consistent engagement through smaller, more frequent exercises can be just as effective in building regional stability. The goal is to create a persistent and credible deterrent that prevents conflicts before they can escalate into full-scale confrontations. The testimony further explored the role of Special Operations Forces in navigating the complexities of the Southern Command's operating environment. These elite units provide a flexible and low-profile means of engaging with regional partners and countering irregular threats. Their ability to operate in the shadows while adhering to the strict legal standards of the U.S. military is a testament to the training discussed by the committee. General Donovan praised the professionalism of these forces and their contributions to national security missions that often go unnoticed by the public. Their success depends on a clear understanding of their mission and the unwavering support of the senior leadership. Looking toward the future, the integration of space and cyber capabilities into regional strategies will be paramount. The Southern Command is increasingly a theater where domestic security and global competition collide in the digital realm. General Donovan noted that protecting critical infrastructure from cyber attacks is a priority that requires close cooperation with regional governments. The military's role in this space is to provide the technical expertise and deterrent capacity necessary to safeguard the digital commons. This evolution of the mission reflects the reality that the modern battlefield has no fixed boundaries and requires a constant state of vigilance. The hearing concluded this segment with a focus on the budgetary requirements needed to sustain a modernized and ready force. General Donovan was candid about the trade-offs that would be necessary if the defense budget does not keep pace with the evolving threat environment. Senator Cotton and his colleagues on the committee were tasked with the difficult responsibility of prioritizing competing national interests in a constrained fiscal climate. The dialogue made it clear that investing in the military is not just about purchasing hardware, but about securing the future of the nation's democratic institutions. The proceedings served as a clarion call for a renewed national commitment to a robust and principled defense strategy. The resilience of the American system lies in its ability to engage in these rigorous public debates about its most fundamental institutions. The Senate Armed Services Committee provides a vital forum for ensuring that the military remains accountable to the people it serves. General Donovan's testimony, under the sharp questioning of Senator Cotton, provided a transparent look at the challenges and opportunities facing the nation. It reaffirmed that while the world is changing rapidly, the core values of the United States military remain constant. The focus on integrity, discipline, and strategic foresight will continue to guide the nation through the uncertainties of the mid-2020s. Every word spoken in the hearing room resonates far beyond the walls of the Capitol, reaching the ears of allies and adversaries alike. It is a demonstration of the strength of a system that is not afraid to examine its own limitations and strive for improvement. The balance between global responsibilities and regional security remains a work in progress, requiring constant adjustment and innovation. General Donovan's leadership, if confirmed, will be defined by his ability to navigate these complex waters with the same integrity he has shown throughout his career. The hearing was a successful exercise in democratic governance and a vital step toward a more secure and prosperous future for all. The strategic discourse within the Senate Armed Services Committee eventually gravitated toward the intricate relationship between military readiness and the preservation of global democratic norms. General Donovan articulated a vision where the American military serves as the primary guarantor of international maritime law and sovereign territorial integrity. This role requires more than just overwhelming firepower. It demands a sophisticated understanding of how military presence influences the political calculations of regional leaders. Senator Cotton emphasized that the credibility of American deterrence is contingent upon the perceived willingness of the United States to act in defense of its core interests. The hearing highlighted that any perceived hesitation in the Western Hemisphere could be interpreted as a sign of systemic retreat by global observers. The discussion then moved toward the necessity of modernization in the face of rapid technological advancements by competing nation-states. General Donovan noted that the era of uncontested American dominance in the air and sea domains has effectively come to an end. This new reality mandates a shift toward asymmetric capabilities that can offset the numerical advantages of potential adversaries. The committee explored the development of hypersonic systems and long-range precision fires as essential tools for maintaining a competitive edge. Senator Cotton questioned the pace of these procurement programs, stressing that the window for meaningful modernization is closing as global threats accelerate. The exchange underscored the tension between the need for immediate operational readiness and the requirement for long-term technological investment. The human element of military service remained a central theme as the committee addressed the challenges of recruitment and retention in a polarized social environment. General Donovan argued that the military's greatest asset is not its advanced weaponry but the quality and dedication of its personnel. To attract the next generation of leaders, the armed forces must demonstrate a commitment to professional excellence that transcends domestic political divisions. The testimony highlighted the rigorous training protocols that ensure every service member understands their role within a constitutional framework. Senator Cotton reinforced this point by stating that a disciplined and nonpartisan military is the ultimate safeguard of a free republic. This internal cohesion is what allows the United States to project strength and stability on the international stage. The geographical focus returned to the Southern Command as the committee examined the impact of irregular warfare and transnational criminal organizations. General Donovan explained that these non-state actors often serve as proxies for foreign powers seeking to destabilize the region. The military's role in countering these threats involves a high degree of interagency cooperation and intelligence sharing with regional partners. This type of engagement does not require the massive footprint of a carrier strike group, but rather the persistent presence of specialized advisory teams. The hearing illuminated the effectiveness of these small-scale interventions in preventing larger security crises from taking root. By addressing the root causes of instability, the Southern Command can protect the homeland from cascading regional failures. The conversation also delved into the strategic importance of the Arctic and its connection to the broader global security architecture. While the Southern Command focuses on the Americas, the opening of Northern Sea lanes represents a new frontier for great power competition. General Donovan acknowledged that the military must be prepared to operate in diverse and extreme environments to protect American interests. This requires a flexible force structure that can pivot between different theaters of operation with minimal disruption. Senator Cotton pointed out that the ability to project power in the Arctic is a clear indicator of a nation's status as a global power. The hearing emphasized that comprehensive national security requires a 360-degree view of the world's changing geography. The debate over the defense budget took on a more granular tone as the committee reviewed specific programs and their impact on theater readiness. General Donovan was asked to justify the allocation of funds toward high-end stealth platforms versus more cost-effective conventional assets. He argued that a balanced portfolio is necessary to address a wide spectrum of threats, from low-intensity insurgency to high-end conventional conflict. Senator Cotton expressed concern that overinvestment in unproven technologies could leave the current force vulnerable to immediate challenges. This dialogue reflects the broader national debate over how to prioritize defense spending in an era of fiscal constraint. The proceedings made it clear that every budgetary choice has direct consequences for the safety and security of the nation. The role of the reserve components and the National Guard was also recognized as a vital part of the total force. General Donovan praised the seamless integration of these units into active duty operations during recent global deployments. Their presence provides the necessary depth and surge capacity that allows the active force to maintain its global posture. The committee discussed the need for continued investment in the training and equipment of the Guard and Reserve to ensure they remain combat ready. Senator Cotton noted that these citizen soldiers represent a crucial link between the military and the American public. This connection fosters a sense of shared responsibility for the nation's defense and reinforces the values of service and sacrifice. As the hearing progressed, the focus shifted to the importance of the defense industrial base in sustaining a long-term conflict. General Donovan warned that the current manufacturing capacity for critical munitions and spare parts is insufficient for a protracted engagement. This vulnerability requires a renewed partnership between the government and the private sector to revitalize domestic production. Senator Cotton emphasized that economic security is national security, and the nation cannot rely on foreign supply chains for its most essential defense needs. The hearing served as a call to action for a more robust and resilient industrial strategy that can meet the demands of modern warfare. This effort is seen as a necessary component of the nation's overall deterrent posture. The psychological dimension of leadership was explored when the committee discussed the pressure on commanders to deliver results in high-stakes environments. General Donovan spoke candidly about the burden of responsibility that comes with making life-and-death decisions on the battlefield. He emphasized that the mental health and well-being of the force is a top priority for the senior leadership. The military is implementing new programs to support service members and their families throughout the deployment cycle. Senator Cotton acknowledged the sacrifices made by military families and the importance of providing them with the resources they need. This focus on the human side of the military reinforces the idea that the strength of the institution is built on a foundation of mutual support and respect. The hearing concluded this segment with a forward-looking discussion on the role of the United States in a multipolar world. General Donovan reaffirmed that while the international order is changing, the United States remains the indispensable leader of the free world. This leadership is not based on force alone, but on the power of our ideas and the strength of our alliances. The Senate Armed Services Committee continues to play a pivotal role in shaping the policies that will define the American century. Senator Cotton's rigorous questioning ensured that the military's leadership remains focused on the mission of protecting the American people and their way of life. The proceedings left a lasting impression of a nation that is prepared to meet the challenges of the future with confidence and resolve. The intellectual rigor of the Senate Armed Services Committee session reached a new crescendo as the dialogue pivoted toward the integration of non-kinetic effects in modern warfare. General Donovan emphasized that the contemporary battlefield is no longer defined solely by the physical exchange of fire, but by the dominance of information. In the Southern Command, this manifests as a constant struggle to control the narrative and counter disinformation campaigns orchestrated by state-backed actors. These digital skirmishes are designed to erode public trust in democratic institutions and undermine the legitimacy of American regional partnerships. Senator Cotton underscored that the ability to win the information war is just as critical as maintaining superiority in traditional combat domains. The hearing revealed that the military is increasingly adopting a whole-of-government approach to neutralize these invisible threats before they manifest as physical violence. The discussion then turned to the burgeoning importance of the space domain in supporting tactical operations within the Western Hemisphere. General Donovan noted that every aspect of modern military logistics, from GPS navigation to secure communications, is dependent on orbital assets. Any disruption to these systems would have catastrophic implications for the chain of command and the ability to project power globally. The committee explored the necessity of enhancing the resilience of the nation's satellite architecture against emerging counter-space capabilities. Senator Cotton questioned the speed at which the Space Force is being integrated into the operational plans of the geographical combatant commands. This exchange highlighted the strategic reality that the ultimate high ground is no longer a mountain peak but the silent expanse of Earth's orbit. A significant portion of the hearing was dedicated to the ethical challenges posed by the proliferation of low-cost, high-impact drone technology. General Donovan acknowledged that the democratization of precision strike capabilities has leveled the playing field for non-state actors and smaller nations. The Southern Command has observed an uptick in the use of unmanned systems for both surveillance and the delivery of illicit payloads across international borders. This requires a rapid evolution in counter-UAS technology and the legal frameworks that govern its employment in non-combat zones. Senator Cotton emphasized that the United States must lead in setting international standards for the responsible use of autonomous systems. The hearing served as a reminder that technological superiority is a fleeting advantage that must be constantly defended through innovation and legal clarity. The focus on institutional integrity returned as the committee addressed the impact of domestic cultural shifts on the professional military education system. General Donovan argued that the core curriculum must remain focused on the fundamental principles of warfighting and constitutional duty. He cautioned against any ideological drift that might distract from the primary mission of defending the nation and its interests. Senator Cotton expressed strong support for a return to meritocratic standards that prioritize technical proficiency and leadership character above all else. This consensus reinforced the idea that the military strength is derived from its status as a neutral and highly disciplined institution. The testimony provided a clear directive for military academies and staff colleges to redouble their efforts in cultivating a warrior ethos grounded in historical precedent. The economic implications of prolonged regional instability were further explored through the lens of maritime security and global trade routes. General Donovan pointed out that the Southern Command is responsible for protecting some of the world's most vital commercial arteries, including the Panama Canal. Any interference with these choke points would trigger a ripple effect throughout the global economy, affecting everything from energy prices to supply chain stability. The military's role in ensuring the freedom of navigation is therefore an essential component of the nation's overall economic health. Senator Cotton noted that a weakened naval presence in the region creates a vacuum that adversaries are eager to fill with their own security architectures. The hearing emphasized that the cost of maintaining a robust forward presence is far lower than the cost of responding to a major international crisis. The dialogue also touched upon the role of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief as a form of strategic engagement. General Donovan explained that the military's ability to respond quickly to natural disasters in Latin America and the Caribbean builds immense goodwill and regional stability. These missions provide a unique opportunity for the United States to demonstrate its commitment to the well-being of its neighbors without resorting to traditional military force. Senator Cotton agreed that these soft power initiatives are vital force multipliers that enhance the credibility of American leadership. However, he also stressed that such missions must not come at the expense of the force's primary combat readiness. This delicate balance between being a good neighbor and a formidable guardian is the central challenge of modern regional command. The hearing then moved into the technicalities of cyber defense and the protection of critical military infrastructure from sophisticated intrusion. General Donovan revealed that adversarial cyber units are constantly probing the vulnerabilities of American defense networks and logistical databases. A successful breach could potentially paralyze the military's ability to mobilize and sustain operations in a crisis. The committee discussed the need for a more proactive cyber posture that includes the ability to conduct offensive operations to deter persistent attackers. Senator Cotton emphasized that in the digital age, the front lines are everywhere, including the personal devices and home networks of service members. The proceedings made it clear that cybersecurity is no longer an IT issue but a fundamental requirement of modern operational security. The role of the private sector in developing cutting-edge defense technologies was a point of significant interest for the committee. General Donovan praised the agility of startups and tech firms in bringing innovative solutions to the battlefield more quickly than traditional defense contractors. He called for a more streamlined acquisition process that encourages competition and reduces the barriers to entry for new players in the defense space. Senator Cotton noted that the nation's economic dynamism is a strategic advantage that must be fully leveraged to stay ahead of global competitors. The hearing served as a catalyst for a broader discussion on how to foster a more integrated and responsive national security innovation base. This collaboration is seen as the key to maintaining a qualitative edge over adversaries who rely on state-directed technological development. As the session progressed, the committee examined the long-term demographic trends affecting the future of the all-volunteer force. General Donovan was candid about the challenges of recruiting from a population that is increasingly disconnected from the military experience. He suggested that the military must do a better job of communicating the value of service and the opportunities for professional growth within the ranks. Senator Cotton emphasized that the call to service must be rooted in a sense of national purpose and a shared commitment to the ideals of the Republic. The hearing highlighted the need for a national conversation on the importance of civic responsibility and the role of the military in a healthy democracy. The goal is to ensure that the next generation of leaders is prepared to carry on the legacy of those who came before them. The final segment of this portion of the hearing addressed the strategic importance of the Caribbean Basin as a gateway to the American homeland. General Donovan noted that the security of this region is inextricably linked to the domestic safety of the United States. The rise of transnational crime and the potential for foreign military basing in the Caribbean represent direct threats to national sovereignty. Senator Cotton called for a renewed focus on the Monroe Doctrine as a guiding principle for American foreign policy in the 21st century. This approach emphasizes that the Western Hemisphere must remain a zone free from the interference of hostile external powers. The hearing concluded with a strong reaffirmation of the United States' commitment to maintaining its status as the preeminent power in the Americas. The concluding phase of the Senate Armed Services Committee hearing moved toward a synthesis of the ethical, logistical, and strategic threads woven throughout the day's testimony. General Donovan articulated that the true measure of military readiness is not found in the number of ships or aircraft, but in the clarity of the national will. He emphasized that the strategic pivot toward the Southern Command and other traditionally overlooked theaters is a necessary adaptation to a world of diffused power and persistent competition. This requires a shift in mindset from preparing for a single, decisive conflict to managing a continuous spectrum of global challenges. Senator Cotton underscored that the success of this transition depends on the ability of the legislative and executive branches to provide consistent and predictable support. The hearing demonstrated that while the tools of warfare are changing, the fundamental requirements of leadership and strategic foresight remain as constant as ever. A critical point of reflection was the impact of military culture on the broader health of the American democratic experiment. General Donovan argued that the military serves as one of the few remaining institutions where Americans from every background come together to serve a cause greater than themselves. This shared sense of purpose is a powerful antidote to the fragmentation seen in many other areas of public life. Senator Cotton reinforced this by noting that a military that reflects the highest ideals of the nation is its most effective ambassador on the world stage. The training and discipline highlighted in the discussion on the chain of command are the same qualities that build strong communities and resilient citizens. The hearing served as a reminder that the military is not apart from society but a vital and inseparable part of it. The discourse then turned to the long-term vision for the United States Navy and the revitalization of American maritime power. General Donovan noted that the ability to secure the sea lanes is the prerequisite for global prosperity and the defense of the international order. He called for a renewed commitment to shipbuilding and the expansion of the naval industrial base to ensure the fleet can meet the demands of a multipolar world. This involves not only building more hulls but also integrating advanced technologies like directed energy weapons and unmanned surface vessels. Senator Cotton emphasized that maritime dominance is the historical cornerstone of American security and must be preserved at all costs. The exchange highlighted the strategic necessity of a fleet that is both numerically sufficient and technologically superior to any potential adversary. The role of alliances and partnerships in the Western Hemisphere was revisited as a final strategic priority for the coming decade. General Donovan explained that the United States cannot and should not attempt to secure the region alone. By fostering deeper military-to-military relationships and conducting frequent joint exercises, the military can create a network of capable partners who share the burden of regional security. This collaborative approach enhances the legitimacy of American presence and provides a powerful counter-narrative to the transactional diplomacy of foreign competitors. Senator Cotton noted that these partnerships are built on years of consistent engagement and mutual respect, which cannot be easily replicated by adversarial powers. The hearing reaffirmed that the United States is at its strongest when it leads a coalition of willing and capable partners. The ethical dimensions of warfare in the age of rapid information flow were given a final, solemn consideration. General Donovan spoke of the importance of maintaining the moral high ground even when faced with enemies who do not respect international norms or human rights. The transparency of the American system, as exemplified by the Senate hearing itself, is a source of strength that attracts allies and deters those who operate in the shadows. Senator Cotton emphasized that the adherence to the laws of armed conflict and the principle of the lawful order is what separates a professional military from a mere instrument of state coercion. This moral clarity is essential for maintaining the support of the American people and the respect of the international community. The proceedings concluded with a sense of shared responsibility for upholding these standards in an increasingly complex and dangerous world. The hearing also addressed the need for a more integrated approach to national resilience, encompassing everything from energy security to social cohesion. General Donovan pointed out that a military cannot be strong if the nation it defends is vulnerable to internal or external shocks. This requires a holistic view of national security that includes the protection of the democratic process and the integrity of the nation's infrastructure. Senator Cotton argued that the military has a role to play in this broader effort by providing the stability and security necessary for the other elements of national power to flourish. This integration of domestic and foreign policy concerns marks a new chapter in the evolution of American grand strategy. The hearing served as a call for a renewed national dialogue on how to best protect the American way of life in the 21st century. As the final witnesses were excused, the weight of the testimony began to settle over the committee room. The challenges identified are significant, but the hearing also revealed a profound sense of optimism and determination among the nation's military and political leadership. General Donovan's responses throughout the day demonstrated a deep commitment to the values of service, integrity, and strategic excellence. Senator Cotton's rigorous oversight ensured that the fundamental questions of national security were addressed with the seriousness they deserve. The collaborative nature of the exchange provided a model for how a mature democracy can navigate the most difficult issues of its time. The result was a clear and compelling vision for the future of American defense and global leadership. The legacy of this session will be measured by the actions taken in the months and years to follow. The commitment to a disciplined chain of command, the modernization of the force, and the strengthening of regional alliances must now be translated into concrete policies and budget allocations. General Donovan, if confirmed, will bear the responsibility of implementing this vision in an era of unprecedented change. The Senate Armed Services Committee will continue to play its vital role as a guardian of the public trust and a catalyst for strategic innovation. This ongoing dialogue between the military and the people it serves is the ultimate source of the nation's resilience. The hearing was not just an administrative requirement but a powerful affirmation of the enduring strength of the American system. In the final analysis, The security of the United States depends on the courage and character of the individuals who choose to lead and serve. The testimony of the generals and the questioning of the senators were a tribute to the thousands of men and women who stand watch around the globe every day. Their dedication to the principles of freedom and the rule of law is the real foundation of the nation's power. General Donovan expressed his profound gratitude for the opportunity to continue serving this mission at the highest levels of command. Senator Cotton closed the session with a reminder that the work of defending the Republic is never finished. The hearing concluded, leaving behind a roadmap for a nation that remains committed to its role as a beacon of liberty and a formidable defender of peace. The strategic landscape of 2026 and beyond will undoubtedly present new and unforeseen challenges that will test the limits of American ingenuity and resolve. However, the insights gained from this Senate hearing provide a solid framework for navigating these uncertainties with confidence. By prioritizing institutional integrity and strategic logistics, the military can ensure that it remains a lethal and effective force for generations to come. The focus on the Southern Command and the integration of new technologies reflect a forward-looking posture that is ready for the future of conflict. The commitment to democratic oversight and the rule of law ensures that this power will always be exercised in a manner consistent with the nation's highest ideals. The United States enters this new era with its eyes open and its spirit undaunted, ready to meet the challenges of a world in transition.